subtle, nuance, poignant. A few words about the pronunciation of poignant and subtle. Subtle has a silent B, which is not heard when the word is pronounced correctly. Subtle, subtle, subtle. Occasionally one hears the word mispronounced subtle, as in sub-sandwich or submarine. That is incorrect. Subtle is correct. Likewise, poignant has a silent letter G. Poignant, poignant, poignant. When I was in college, I had a political science course taught by a very bright young professor who used poignant in nearly every lecture multiple times. Unfortunately, he had never heard or learned to pronounce poignant correctly, and he pronounced poignant poignant, poignant, which subtracts from this aesthetic elegance of the sound of poignant when pronounced correctly. As the semester progressed, he continued to mispronounce the word poignant, much to the chagrin of several of my fellow classmates, one of whom I heard multiple times whispering that he keeps mispronouncing this word. About halfway through the semester, she'd have had enough, raised her hand and said, "Professor so-and-so, I need to inform you that poignant is pronounced poignant, not poignant." He was very embarrassed, however, much to his credit, he took the constructive criticism in stride. And after having been corrected, moving forward, he correctly pronounced poignant. The meaning of subtle is a slight or small difference in the quality and or quantity and or characteristics of something. It could be a sound, it could be a color, it could be the appearance of something. To use subtle in a sentence, I might say, there is not a subtle difference between the colors green and red. They are not similar. The difference between the two is not subtle. However, the difference between cobalt blue and royal blue, the difference in those two colors is subtle, or certainly more subtle than the difference between green and red. Nuance is somewhat synonymous with subtle. A nuance is a difference in something, in the interpretation of something, in the meaning of something, in the way words are spoken, expressed, interpreted, words or phrases. Again, it could be the sound difference in something or the visual difference in something. To use nuance in a sentence, I might say, domestic cats have many facial expressions, and when looking at a cat's face, sometimes the differences are nuanced, very slight. They might move their ear just a little, or the differences can be extreme, where they can go from being very relaxed and calm to being very agitated. Another way of using nuance would be in the interpretation of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, a great, beautiful classical music piece. One needs to use a nuanced interpretation. Poignant means something tragic, something sad, oftentimes very tragic. To use poignant, I might say today when I was working rideshare, I drove a man to work who told me this incredibly poignant story. He and his wife have one child, a 9-year-old daughter, who a few months ago died of influenza at the age of 9. What more terrible thing can happen to a person than to lose a child? I don't have any children, but I know that is the absolute worst thing that could ever happen to a person, to lose their child. Particularly at 9 years of age, parents should not outlive their children. So the exact cause of her death is being investigated now. They're not quite sure what happened. She was hospitalized for 2.5 months. They were living down in Milwaukee at a large children's hospital. She was born a premium. He told me that she had been born 25 weeks early or 25 weeks. And so she had been in a ventilator as an infant. However, she had developed, and her parents were thinking she was going to live into adulthood. And just a terribly, terribly tragic, poignant story. Very sad.